Today, I would like to share my story about my reflections on working in a corporate, how working in a seemingly good company with good culture and work life balance still was not able to provide me the fulfillment that I am after. These triggers eventually led me to hand in my resignation. Here's the story that I have for you today. The story starts with my relationship with my current boss. This person whom I've shared work experiences with in a couple of companies, three companies by now. So this relationship was definitely pretty good to start off. This boss of mine, when working with him as a colleague, I saw pretty good leadership potential in this person through my observations. This guy treated people quite nice. He talks to people as if they're his peers. He's very fair and he treats everyone the same. He's quite nice and gets along with people, but does put the hammer down when needed. It's quite flexible on work hours as long as you get shit done. There's none of that random corporate bullshit trying to micromanage you or trying to make you look bad. There's none of that. So, through my experiences working with this guy as a fellow colleague, I decided that joining this company and having him take me under his wing would be a opportunity that would provide much growth for myself, and I would also be able to work for a company that's experiencing exponential growth. That's the background of why I took this role and why I decided to work with this former peer of mine at this job that I will now resign from. To be honest, it's pretty hard to gain trust from me. And over the past couple of experiences, couple of years working with this guy in different companies, I thought that there was a hard earned, solid foundation of trust between me and this person. I decided to also use that as a pretty big reason behind why I decided to work with this person again. But mind you, I was never working directly under this person as a direct report. So I decided to give that a try. I joined the company and I picked up the role pretty fast. We have to get our hands real dirty doing this job because it makes total sense as well. As a company that's growing really fast and scaling fast, teams will definitely be more lean and the individuals will have to shoulder more responsibility as the company is rather cautious in the spending of budget. They're pretty frugal financially. So we have to take up a lot of work, but even with that being a reality of the job, I was still able to secure a promotion within, let's say, the first year or year and a half. And after getting that promotion, my performance evaluation was also exceeding expectations. I'm not saying this to tell you that, oh, I'm really competent and whatnot. Despite having a growth filled and promotion included journey at this company, I still felt a little weird. And why is that? Most people might think that, oh, this is quite a nice gig, quite a nice journey, and they would be willing to keep on going. But that was when something went off. My motivations and my willingness to show up to work. That's when it took a turn. And this is eighth or ninth year since I started working. So I started feeling numb about the repetitive tasks that we have to partake in, a pretty set cycle of things that we have to do and the same milestones with the same people. And a lot of times thought that company at large was spending a lot of time switching up things that already worked, especially when it comes to processes and how meetings are set up. We were changing a lot of things that didn't need to be changed, and in other areas that needed a firm technical solve, we were less active in trying to make that come to life. And after doing all this stuff, frankly speaking, it made me think that it was difficult to still make a pretty big impact, even at a company that is still smaller in size compared to its competitors, and being in a smaller team, which I myself think that I am more suited for. But with all this being said, still felt really numb. And you might say that I'm looking a gift horse in the mouth, or I'm being a little bitch about this problem, which I can totally understand why you might think that way. But it's just that this innate drive that is pushing me towards doing something that is more purposeful, more meaningful, that I can drive and follow through and own the result of, and putting my efforts in something that can make a living for me. Because as of right now, I wouldn't be able to take a lot of the fruits of my labor away once I cut ties with the company after my resignation. Very little can be brought along with me in that eventual departure. My everyday routine would be, I would get to work, I would wonder, what the fuck is all this? Is this my only path to work for a corporate, to climb the corporate ladder, and to fill my days up with meetings once I do climb up to the manager level? And that's how I'll be able to spend my day. I'm not sure if that's something that I want. I do see the merit in doing so because you definitely have to command more resources. And in a corporate setting, the basic unit of command would be people. And this would mean that you would have to manage people. I don't think that I would be bad at doing so, but the corporate politics, the drama that some people might pull, that is a demotivating element behind my hesitation moving up the corporate ladder. So that got me to seriously question what I'm doing and whether it's compatible with how I am, how I'm made. What is my calling? What is my gift as a person? And what exactly am I good at? What I arrived at was a couple of things. I'm a quite genuine person. I don't enjoy communication that's not genuine. I want to help people. I find a great sense of achievement through mentorship and cooperation. I do thrive in team settings. I'm also not afraid to get my hands dirty in the case that I have to dig into the details and get shit done. And ideally, these would potentially put me in a pretty good place in a corporate setting because a lot of it would be cooperation, a lot of it would be working with people. But there's always a but. It's about conflict resolution. Perhaps I'm still not the most mentally mature person out there. I'm 30, so I'm officially 12 in adult years. What I'm also not particularly good at is showing off myself to the people that need to understand my competence and just gaining more visibility at the senior leadership level. I suppose I could be good at that. I just feel like those interactions are just not very genuine. I find a lot of trouble doing that. And I totally understand that that is a way, it's a strategy for you to become successful in the workplace, and it's something that you cannot avoid doing. But something in me is just telling me that it's not relationships that I want to cultivate, and that could also be a double-edged sword in the sense that I like my relationships to be quite genuine, quite intimate, and like to keep it to a close circle. So these are the results of my self-reflection, but the question is still there every single day. What exactly am I doing here? Am I looking a gift horse in the mouth by wanting to quit such a good environment? Other potential causes to this never-ending asking that my brain is doing on a daily basis, and it's been going on for around 6 months, 6.5 months, and I've kind of stuck it through. I set June of this year as a cutoff point where I would be completely done with that season I am in charge of. And that's when I'll make a decision to whether I will quit or not. And that's when I decided to resign from the role. The moment I finished the very last task related to that season I was meaning to finish, I sent in my 1 month notice and my 1.5 month notice because I wanted to make sure that they have more time to hire someone, and I can hand my stuff over to the person they hire. And this is where I want to talk about what happened after I sent in my letter of resignation. The day of, I set up a meeting with my boss. This meeting turned out to be a pretty cordial meeting. He thanked me for my contributions over here, and he also provided me some genuine feedback. I do believe that that feedback was genuine in how I would need to be nicer to people when I am really busy. Because oftentimes, when I'm busy, I choose to prioritize the task at hand, and I would not allow any messages or anyone to disrupt my flow when I'm trying to get my work done, which I think is the way for me to get stuff done. I have to be responsible for an entire category. This is something that in other companies you would have an entire team deal with. My mental heuristic and the strategy that I employ to make sure that I am the most efficient I can be is to block out all the noise and to be in a flow state to get my job done. And oftentimes I could ignore people, I could be pretty impatient, which I do admit. Genuine feedback. He thanked me for my contribution. He said that I did a lot for the company. It was a pretty good way to end my job here at this company. But before that, during my 5.5 months of pondering whether this is the right role for me, we had a performance review. One thing that he said in a meeting triggered me quite a bit. I was in a pretty bad mental state because of that questioning of purpose and meaning and whether I want to devote my life to working in a corporate and fitting into the environment and whatnot. I was behaving in a way that was a little peculiar that I never thought that I would behave in such a way, but I started speaking very little. I would just listen in. I didn't speak much, didn't want to speak much, didn't want to talk much to people. I just wanted to get that stuff done. And hopefully, by getting stuff done, I would be able to regain my my normal self. And even as someone with limited managing experience, when my top performers exhibit a change in behavior, signs of them being down, potentially depressed and not speaking much and not taking initiative, my first question would be, what exactly is going on? Are you okay? What has impacted your motivation to perform at work? This is what my boss said verbatim. He said, in the case that you do not want to work for the company anymore, there are a lot of people out there who want to work for the company. When someone who is identified as a top performer within the company exhibits a change in behavior, signaling that this person is down or lost or potentially a little depressed, the first thing you say would not be to threaten this guy's job security, not to guilt trip this person into performing better and regaining his or her old self. That's just a very bad persuasion tactic. And also play devil's advocate for me because I would also want to listen to third party feedback. I would appreciate that. Me, the way I am, I don't take shit like that. It's probably also because I'm young and I'm still relatively young, I'm still relatively immature. That is just a little side story that I didn't mention earlier. So that was the meeting that came after a couple hours after which I scheduled after I submitted my letter of resignation. And after that, I thought, okay, so this is dealt with. I can finally start working on my handover without any distractions, and this would be a pretty cordial departure, at least from the way I interpreted it. It wasn't a bridge burning incident. Yeah, I still exhibited quite a bit of initiative to, first of all, prolong my departure. Normally I can do two weeks or a month, but I extended it to a month and a half. And I did genuinely work pretty hard to perform the tasks required of me at this role. Oh god, another key factor is that the team will be hiring someone on top of me. And in the past, I know bosses do this all the time. There was talk about me moving into that role. And now perhaps it's because they assessed me as someone who does not have that motivation anymore. They don't want to deal with all that stuff. So they decided to drop someone on top of me. And this is also someone I will be reporting to. I will no longer be reporting to the boss who I'm currently reporting to, and I will be reporting to this new hire sitting on top of me. So that's another added reason. That second meeting that was set up to discuss my departure, she came in wanting to understand my motivation, what's going on, if paying me more money or giving me that senior lead role will dissuade me from wanting to leave. And I honestly thought that these were all trap questions. I don't really trust HR. I have never really trusted HR. I think HR is a cost cutting HR is a cost cutting department in the company, and the moment you have a record on the file, it stays there. Me, as someone who resigned, who submitted a letter of resignation that's on record, I will not rescind that resignation to cover my ass because I don't know what how they're gonna do behind the scenes to mess with me because I do not have any trust for HR. And that was that. And this persuasion technique or tactic that she employed was to tell me that we're going to hire someone who you report to, and this person is going to be very senior, very experienced. So this person would be able to coach you better, and you'll be able to grow more with this person being your boss. And she wanted to see if I had the intention of staying a little longer to test the waters, essentially, to test out whether I will be able to vibe well with this person. I said no the day of because I don't really believe in that stuff. And she also did mention that, oh, you're seen as a high potential candidate, but I don't really understand when someone who is your high potential candidate hands in a letter of resignation, and the hour after, my other friend who I referred in the past for a similar role got reached out by the company recruiter on my exact role an hour after I submitted my letter of resignation without any signs of them wanting to retain me. That didn't make no sense. The following week, which is this week, my boss set up a meeting to discuss what happened. And in this meeting, he told me that in the first meeting, which he acted very cordial, he was still cordial, by the way. In the first meeting, he acted very cordial and he was okay with me leaving. And that was a result of him being in a state of shock. He didn't know how to react to the news of me leaving. I do understand that. I did set up the meeting and before I sent through the letter of resignation. So potentially that could be the truth. But I also look in other angles. And he also said that senior leadership, so people who are at the very top, they also want to retain me as a high potential employee. And he wanted to see if giving me a salary boost or positioning me into another role would help dissuade me from wanting to leave. And he also said that people at the very top, people running the company this part of the world, they will want to promote me and this other person they're hiring together in the future so that there's growth for the both of us, which I find it very, very fishy. And I obviously didn't react the moment he talked to me about he made all these promises, which I think are empty promises, because I don't think that they will be able to do that. And this is all a ploy to buy them time before they find that senior lead and a replacement for me, because it's written all over. You've already reached out to someone an hour after, and now you're telling me that they want me to stay. I just don't understand that. It doesn't really make sense. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me know. And then he jabbed at a old wound of mine. Now he said, I can replace you today if I wanted to. But there's always a but. But they wouldn't be as competent. They wouldn't have the experience, building up the business from the ground up. I could replace you. I could replace you today if I wanted to. I got people lining up for your role. I got I got backfill all the way to New York. But you're valued. We view you as a high potential candidate, and we are invested in your future with the company. This future where there's no specific time frame of you getting that promotion, or this person we're putting on top of you when that person's going to get promoted. And that's the main reason why you should stay with the company. And of course, if you want compensation increases, we can negotiate. Is it just me, or is this a really bad persuasion technique? A really bad way to persuade someone to stay. It's like a compliment sandwich, right? You're highly valued. I could replace you. I could replace you right now if I wanted to with all the backfill. And then they close it off. They put on the bottom of the hamburger with or the sandwich with, if you want to negotiate or talk about a potential salary increase, we can do that. So what exactly is the persuasion logic here? I don't really understand. Am I just naive, or is this how the world, the is this the gold standard of persuasion tactics? And does this work normally when you do pull such a thing? Well, of course, I didn't react at the moment. I just nodded and I said, thank you for speaking to me about this. I really appreciate your time. And that's literally the entire story up until today. I'm just a little jaded. It's a very hysterical place to be. I don't know. I'm disappointed. I find it really funny. I find it really funny because people are reacting in such a way. And he also told me to not be a hothead. He said, don't be a hothead and just switch companies right now. This person is someone I've worked with for quite a long time, and he knows that I'm definitely not a hothead. I think I think, overthink before I make all these decisions. And he provided the example of him in a previous company. The company decided to put someone on top and have him report to this person. They put this person in, and throughout the entirety of my boss being at this company, he never got a promotion. And that was when he decided to jump ship to this company. So applying that logic and his experiences and using that as a way to persuade me to stay, that also didn't make sense because you're here, you put someone on top, your path towards promotion is blocked throughout the entirety of the couple years you were at the company, you did not move up, and now you're using that same experience to persuade me to stay. I'm still committed to follow through on my resignation. I was able to see through the fact that despite the fact that you're a high performer, at the end of the day, you're still disposable, dispensable, you're just a deployable pawn. And companies say that they value talent, they want to retain talent. But from this experience, I just find it pretty difficult. I'm not saying that I have to get promoted every single year for me to remain valued as an employee, but communication is key. And in the case that you were going to hire someone with much more experience for me to report into, I should have at least been told that such a decision has been made at the very top. Because he only told me this at the very last meeting. Why do people only react when things are about to go to shit? I don't get it. I honestly don't. And perhaps there are those out there who have more experience and more expertise on this matter. I do accept that I'm still someone who's relatively inexperienced in the game of life, less mature. Just wanted to share my story and see if there are any others out there who are also going through the same stuff, searching for purpose and meaning, and working in a corporate is not exactly providing you such a solve. And that's it for today.